The 911 operator's voice trembled as she replayed the call. It was the last one ever received from the town of Coldcreek. On the recording, a man's voice gasped for air. "There's something in the street," he said. Then came a sound. Not static, not wind, but a deep humming noise that made every speaker in the dispatch room shake. After that, nothing. The line went dead. When officers arrived 30 minutes later, the entire town was gone. Every house still had dinner plates on the tables, car engines were still warm, and streetlights flickered over empty sidewalks. But there were no people. Not one. No bodies, no footprints, not even a sound. The dogs in the kennels were gone too. Phones rang unanswered inside houses where televisions still played the nightly news. The first officer who entered Coldcreek's main street whispered, "Where is everyone?" before his radio began crackling with the same low hum from the 911 call. Then it cut to silence. That was the last transmission anyone heard before Coldcreek was sealed off. Now, days later, investigators in hazmat suits combed through the ghost town. Their flashlights swept over children's bikes left in driveways and grocery carts abandoned mid-aisle. One of them, Agent Mark Leland, stopped in front of a red payphone, the same one used to make the 911 call. The receiver still hung loose. He lifted it to his ear. The humming started again. He dropped it instantly and stumbled back. The sound wasn't coming from the phone anymore. It was coming from under the ground. Deep, steady, mechanical, like something enormous stirring far below the streets. Leland looked at the others. "Tell command," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "It's still here." The humming grew louder, vibrating through the asphalt. Streetlights flickered in waves down the block, one by one. And just as the agents turned to run, the lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed Coldcreek again. Earlier that week, Coldcreek had been the kind of small town you passed through without noticing. One gas station, one diner, one stoplight that blinked red even at 3 a.m. Everyone knew everyone. Sheriff Tom Briggs had spent 20 years there, mostly dealing with noise complaints and the occasional runaway goat. But that Monday morning, people started saying they heard strange noises at night. A deep vibration that made windows rattle and dogs bark for no reason. The mayor blamed construction at the quarry 5 miles east. But the workers swore they hadn't used heavy machinery in days. By Wednesday, the local radio station caught it too. A low-frequency hum that came through the speakers during every song. The DJ laughed it off at first, calling it Coldcreek's new ghost band. But then people started vanishing. First, Mrs. Doyle from the grocery store didn't show up for her shift. Her car was still parked outside, keys in the ignition, door open. Then a teenage boy named Connor was reported missing on his walk home from baseball practice. His phone was found still recording on the roadside, picking up faint, rhythmic pulses. The sheriff organized a search party that night. Half the town showed up with flashlights. They combed the woods, the quarry, and even the creek bed. By 2 a.m., everyone gathered at the diner to rest. Sheriff Briggs stood by the window, staring out into the fog. "Tomorrow," he said, "we'll call the county for help." He never got the chance. At 2:47 a.m., the town's power flickered. Streetlights blinked twice, then went out. Every phone in the diner, all 15 of them, began ringing at the same time. The sound was shrill, echoing off the walls. "Don't answer," Briggs warned. But one man did, a mechanic named Ray Mullen. He pressed the receiver to his ear. The line hissed, then a voice whispered, "Don't look outside." Ray froze. "Who is this?" Static. Then again louder, "Don't look outside." Everyone turned toward the window. Through the fog, they could see figures standing in the street. Dozens of them, perfectly still, silhouettes barely visible through the glass. The sheriff's hand moved to his radio. "Everyone stay calm. Nobody moves." Then one of the figures tilted its head. The sound that followed was unlike anything they'd ever heard. A low, crushing wave that made the floor tremble. Plates fell from tables. Lights burst above their heads. The glass windows of the diner shattered outward, sucked into the fog as if pulled by invisible hands. And then silence. When the lights returned moments later, the diner was empty. Every chair, every plate, every cup. still there. But the people were gone. That's when the 911 call came in. The operator heard a man's voice whispering, panicked and close to tears. "They're all gone," he said. "Everyone's gone. Please, send someone." Then came that humming, deep, endless, vibrating through the headset like it was alive. The operator shouted, "Sir? Sir, are you still there?" No answer. Just one final whisper before the line died. "It's coming back." Back in the present, Agent Leland and his team huddled inside the Coldcreek police station, the only building where the lights still worked. On the wall hung a large town map with dozens of red pins marking missing persons. The entire map was covered. One agent muttered, "It's like the town just folded in on itself." Leland didn't answer. He stared at a note pinned to the wall, written in the sheriff's shaky handwriting. "If anyone finds this, don't answer the phones." Suddenly, a phone rang. Every head turned. It wasn't a cell phone. It was the old rotary phone on the sheriff's desk, the one that hadn't worked in years. Leland's hand hovered over it. The ringing grew louder, sharper, almost pleading. "Sir," one of the agents said softly, "Don't." But the sound stopped. For a moment, the room was still. Then the phone clicked once, as if someone had picked up from the other end. Leland stepped closer. "Hello." The line was silent. Then a faint child's voice whispered, "We're still here." Every light in the station went out. The darkness inside the Coldcreek police station was complete, so thick it felt alive. Agent Mark Leland's flashlight clicked on, cutting through the black. Dust floated in the narrow beam. The phone on the sheriff's desk hung still, its cord swaying gently, though no one had touched it. "Roll call," Leland said, his voice low but firm. One by one, the agents called out their names. "All present. For now." Then came a soft tapping from somewhere behind the evidence lockers. 3 slow knocks. Pause. Then 3 more. "Who's back there?" Leland called out. No answer. The tapping stopped. He signaled to Agent Ruiz to cover him as he moved toward the rear of the room. Their boots echoed softly on the old wooden floor. When they reached the lockers, they found the source, an old police radio, flickering weakly to life. Static hissed through the speaker, then a voice, faint, far away, and terrified. "This is Sheriff Briggs. If anyone hears this, stay inside. Don't go near the streetlights. They aren't lights anymore." Then a deep crackle cut the message off. Ruiz looked at Leland, confused. "Sir, Briggs went missing 3 days ago." Leland stared at the dead radio. "Then who was that?" Before Ruiz could respond, something outside slammed against the front door. A single, heavy hit that rattled the frame. Then again, and again. "Positions!" Leland barked. The team spread out, guns aimed toward the entrance. The banging grew faster, more desperate. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then it stopped. For a few seconds, no one moved. The only sound was the hum of the flickering emergency lights overhead. Ruiz whispered, "Maybe it's someone looking for help." Leland shook his head. "No one's left to knock." He took a slow step toward the door. The air felt thick and cold, as if the entire building was holding its breath. He peered through the small glass pane in the door, but the fog outside was so dense it looked like a wall. Then, for half a second, something pressed against the glass from the other side. Pale hand. It stayed there, motionless, fingers spread wide. Leland froze. "Back away from the door," he said quietly. The hand slowly slid down the glass, leaving a faint trail, not of blood, but of light. It glowed softly, like static electricity. Ruiz whispered, "Sir, that's not human." Then, from outside came a child's laugh, distant at first, then closer, right outside the door. The light inside the station flickered again, brighter this time. The walls trembled with a low vibration, the same deep hum from the 911 call. Leland grabbed his radio. "Command, this is Delta 1. The sound is active. We need extraction now." No response, only static. Then a voice came through, not from command, but from the same channel. "Why did you come back?" it asked. Every agent froze. The voice was flat, calm, emotionless. "Who is this?" Leland demanded. The reply came instantly. "Coldcreek doesn't want to be found." All the lights went out again. 12 hours earlier, before the investigation team entered the town, Coldcreek sat under a cloudy gray morning. Sheriff Briggs had been pacing in his office, radioing the county for backup that never answered. His deputy, Emily Carter, watched the empty Main Street from the window. "Tom," she said softly. "It's quiet. Too quiet." Briggs sighed. "Half the town's gone, Emily. Quiet is the least of our problems." He looked down at the report on his desk. Missing residents, strange noises, the phone calls that led nowhere. The town's only cell tower had gone dead the night before. Emily turned. "What if this isn't something we can handle?" Briggs stared at her. "You saying we just walk away?" "I'm saying maybe we're not supposed to stay." Before Briggs could answer, the radio on his desk hissed to life. A voice crackled through. Faint, panicked. "Sheriff, this is Ray Mullen. I'm at the old substation by the creek. You need to come. Now." Briggs grabbed his keys. "That's Ray from the diner last night." "But he's gone," Emily whispered. "They all disappeared." Briggs didn't wait. He holstered his gun and ran for the truck. Emily followed. As they drove through the fog-covered streets, the town looked frozen in time. Cars left in the middle of intersections, store doors wide open, swings in the playground swaying slowly with no wind. When they reached the substation, the front gate was open. The place looked abandoned. Rusted equipment, overgrown weeds, power lines humming faintly overhead. "Ray," Briggs called. A faint sound came from inside, like a soft scratching on metal. Briggs pushed the door open. The smell of burnt wires filled the air. Flashlight beams swept across the room. Empty chairs, fallen tools, and something else. A shape in the corner crouched near the wall. "Ray," Briggs whispered. The shape turned slowly. It was Ray, but his eyes were blank, glowing faint blue. His mouth opened, and a low humming sound came out, the same frequency that had haunted the town for days. Emily screamed and stumbled back. Briggs aimed his weapon. "Stay where you are, Ray." Ray didn't move. His head tilted sideways, and his voice came out layered, like multiple people speaking at once. "They're coming through," he said, "from underneath." Before Briggs could ask what that meant, every light in the substation burst. The hum turned deafening, shaking the ground. Ray's body stiffened, then vanished, collapsing into a cloud of gray ash that scattered across the floor. Briggs grabbed Emily's arm. "We're leaving. Now." They ran for the truck. The road back to town was darker than before, swallowed by fog so thick the headlights barely reached 5 feet ahead. "Tom," Emily whispered, gripping the wheel. "Look!" Through the mist, they could see figures standing on the road, dozens of them motionless. Some looked human, others like shadows bent in impossible angles. Briggs slammed the brakes. "We're not driving through that." The figures began to move, slowly turning toward the truck. Their faces were pale, blank, eyes glowing faintly blue like rays. "Reverse," Briggs shouted. Emily threw the truck in reverse, but the engine sputtered. The hum was back, vibrating through the metal frame. The dashboard lights blinked, then died. Outside, the figures were closer now. One of them pressed a hand against the window, leaving the same faint glow. Briggs reached for his radio. "This is Sheriff Briggs. If anyone hears me, stay away from Coldcreek. They're not people anymore. Do not." The transmission cut out in static. Back in the present, inside the police station, Agent Leland listened to that same broadcast replaying through the broken radio on the desk. His hands trembled. "Sir," Ruiz said, voice shaking. "That's the same voice from the radio earlier. He's alive." Leland shook his head slowly. "Or it's something pretending to be." Then, somewhere outside, the streetlights flickered back on. But this time, the glow was blue. The hum grew louder, so loud the windows began to vibrate. Ruiz moved toward the door to check. "I think." The wall behind him exploded outward. sending splinters flying. Something burst through, a wave of blue light that filled the room like liquid. Ruiz screamed as the light touched him, and in an instant he was gone. Not burned, not pulled, just gone. Leland fell back, staring at the empty space where Ruiz had stood seconds before. The hum stopped. The blue light faded. Silence. Leland stood slowly, his heart pounding. The phone on the sheriff's desk began to ring again. Soft, steady, patient. He took one shaky step forward. The sound of footsteps echoed down the dark hallway. Slow, deliberate, and heavy, like someone dragging their boots across broken glass. Agent Mark Leland's pulse quickened. His flashlight trembled slightly in his hand as he aimed it toward the doorway. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing against the cracked walls. No reply. The steps stopped just outside the office. Then faintly came a whisper. "Mark!" Leland froze. No one alive in Coldcreek knew his first name. He aimed the light toward the hall. Nothing but swirling fog leaking through the shattered wall. The air smelled faintly of burnt wires and metal. He took a cautious step forward, his boots crunching on glass, his other hand resting on his pistol. "Who's there?" he said again, louder this time. Silence. Then a quiet laugh, soft and almost childlike, drifted from somewhere near the end of the hall. Leland's grip tightened. He moved slowly toward the sound. The hallway stretched long and narrow, lined with old mugshots and wanted posters fluttering slightly in the cold draft. At the far end stood a figure, faint, blurred by the fog. "Ruiz," Leland whispered, his voice cracking. The figure didn't move. Leland raised the flashlight higher. The beam cut through the haze and revealed what looked like a man wearing a black tactical vest, the same type Ruiz had worn. But the head was tilted too far to one side, hanging at an impossible angle. The figure twitched once, then lifted its face toward him. The eyes glowed faint blue. Leland stumbled backward. No, you're gone. You're gone." The figure opened its mouth, and that deep humming sound filled the hall, vibrating through the floor and into Leland's chest. The lights flickered overhead, popping one by one. He turned and ran, bursting back into the main office. He slammed the heavy door shut and pressed his back against it. His breath came fast. The hum stopped. The silence was worse. Leland scanned the room. Files scattered everywhere. Radio cracked, phone silent. Then he noticed something strange. On the floor, beneath the broken ceiling light, someone had drawn a large circular pattern in white chalk. Inside it were small marks, symbols that looked like numbers but weren't. He crouched down to examine it. It wasn't dust or paint. It was salt. Beside it, a handwritten note lay on the floor. "Do not cross the line. They can't step inside the circle." The handwriting was shaky, but familiar. It was Sheriff Briggs. Leland slowly stood, looking around the room again. "You knew," he whispered. "You knew this was coming." Then the radio crackled again, softly. "Leland." He froze. "Who is this?" "It's Briggs. I told you not to answer the phones. You need to leave that building." Leland's throat went dry. "Sheriff, where are you?" "I'm still in town, but I'm not sure for how long." "Sheriff, we found your station empty. Your note, your transmission." "Listen," Briggs interrupted, voice breaking. "They're using the lines, the wires. Every signal, every sound, they travel through it. If you hear them, don't speak. Don't call out. It's how they find you." A loud thump interrupted the transmission, like something hitting the sheriff's radio on his end. "Sheriff." Static. Then Briggs again, faint, desperate. "They're under the streets. The hum you hear, it's not a sound. It's them moving." The line went dead. Leland stared at the radio for a long moment, then turned toward the map still pinned on the wall, the one showing every location where people had vanished. All the red pins formed a perfect circle around the edge of town, the exact shape of the chalk pattern on the floor. Before he could think further, the power came back on, but only for a second. The overhead lights flashed bright blue, and every electronic device in the room turned on at once. Radios, monitors, phones, even the old fax machine. Then they all began playing the same sound, that deep, metallic hum. Leland clamped his hands over his ears, but the vibration wasn't coming from outside anymore. It was inside his head, rattling behind his eyes. The lights flickered again, and the room seemed to shift, like the walls were breathing. The chalk circle on the floor started glowing faintly, and then the phone rang. One slow, piercing ring that echoed through the room. He turned toward it. "No," he whispered. "Not this time." The phone rang again, louder. Then a child's voice came through, soft, clear, and horribly calm. "Agent Leland, you forgot someone." He froze. "Who?" "You left Ruiz in the dark." Leland's stomach turned